We are down to the regional finals in the WRL. The regular season of the APFL is complete, and we have their playoff picture, and we have details about the WRL All-Play tournament. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for all your athletic communication needs. I see two of you are out there tonight. Who is out there? Hit me up and let me know. We got three big topics to hit you with tonight. That is going to be the things that we led the show off with. We have completed the semifinals of the WRL regional playoffs. We are down to the final games in each one of those before we move on to the World Championships. We're going to talk about those a little bit tonight. Ferg is out there with us tonight. Anthony, how are you? Happy Wednesday to you as well, my friend. We're going to talk about the APFL regular season coming to an end and what the playoff picture looks like there. Also have a couple graphics for you to lay out what the first 9 draft picks look like in each one of the conferences, since those are already been decided because those are the ones that are not making the playoffs. Then we're going to talk about the all-play tournament a little bit tonight. And then we have a little extra bit for you at the end. I got Coach Gerard Petrino in the background. You can't hear him yet, but he'll be up here shortly in a little bit, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff that he was involved in today. Actually, I started thinking about it, Gerard, if you could still hear me. Do we want to talk about it because of work? Are you still a thumbs up and want to talk about it because of your appointment today? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you still want to talk about it. Hanley out there with us as well. Hey, Hanley, how you doing, man? How are things up north for all of you that are riding from the north right now? I know Hanley's in Michigan right now. I think Anthony's still out west. So you guys aren't really getting hit with weather, but I'm just wondering how the rest of you are dealing with the weather, especially after we saw the Buffalo game last week. So let's get into this WRL Regional Championship and what that looks like. So we're going to talk about the regional finals, get those pairings in all 5 of the regions, and then we're going to talk about what the worlds could look like in about a week. So in the Phoenix region, after the defeat of the Coolidge Scorpions by a score of 171 to 164, Mad Scientists find themselves in the regional finals of the Phoenix region, facing the Louisville Sluggers, who knocked off the Panda Skins in their semifinal game, 202 to 162. So these two teams faced off against each other in the last week of the regular season, which was week 11. Louisville Sluggers got that win 186 to 143. These two teams, the Louisville Sluggers and the Mad Scientists, match off against each other for the regional championship. Currently, the Louisville Sluggers are favored by 11.5. So let's talk about the Cerberus region. So the E-Thugs won a super tight matchup against Totally Turtley. We saw that final score change 3 times after the game was over due to stat corrections. So it originally showed the E-Thugs were up by a half a point. Then it showed Totally Turtley was up by a half a point. And then it showed that E-Thugs were up by a point. As I'm saying this all out loud, the final outcome of that game was just a half a point margin of victory. The E-Thugs got that win 147.44 to 146.94. And on the other side of the bracket, the Bearcats knocked off the Sin City Kitties 159 to 137. So that means we got the Bearcats versus the E-Thugs in the finals. That's the number 6 versus number 8 as far as seedings go in the Cerberus region. These two matched up against each other in week 5. Bearcats got that win 155 to 142. However, the E-Thugs are currently favored by 4.5 with their set lineups whenever I looked at them earlier today. All right, let's talk about the Sasquatch region. The number 1 seeded 1863 Ramblers knocked off the Land Sharks. Final score there was 183 to 178. And the Epidemic Elephants knocked off Hall of Fame general manager Rusty James and the Rum Runners with a final score there of 169 to 139, meaning the 1863 Ramblers and the Epidemic Elephants will face off against each other in the regional finals. They battled it out in week 6 with the Elephants getting that win 199 to 147. As of this afternoon, the Ramblers changed their lineup a little bit, and they are now favored by 2.5 points, which is the smallest margin of victory projected spread for the week in the WRL playoffs. Next region we got for you is the Banshees. The first round, Idol Ted's Lasso defeated the Power Claws in round 2 with a final score of 163 to 133. That will now pit him against the New York Jackets. Coach Gerard is out there with us right now. We're going to talk about him, talk to him in a little bit. The Jackets ended up defeating the Warbirds 151 to 127. That puts Ted's Lasso as a number 1 seed versus number 3 seed New York Jackets. These two faced off against each other in week 7 of the regular season. Ted's Lasso got that win 148 to 122, and they are currently favored with a small margin of victory over the New York Jackets of 3.3 points. And finally, in the Dragons region, Turd Ferguson got the better of the Virginia Blackbeards with a final score of 190 to 152. That will now pit Turd Ferguson against Carolina Nation after they beat rookie sensation Jedi Mind Tricks with a final score of 180 to 152. Turd and Carolina Nation battled it out in the second to last week of the regular season, with Turd getting that win 160 to 147. And they are currently favored in the rematch by 13.7 points, which is our largest margin of victory projected for this game this week. So, mouthful to say there for everything that is happening. So we are in the regional finals for the WRL. The winner of each one of these will move on to a 5-team playoff bracket, regional champions. Number 4 and 5 will play against each other in the first round, while seeds 1, 2, and 3 will sit idle. The winner of the 4-5 game will end up facing the number 1 seed. For those of you that are paying attention over on Discord, Chris has already figured that all out for us. So if you want to know what that looks like, go out to the WR General channel, scroll a little bit if you have to. Chris's chart that's out there tells you what are the chances of where everybody will play after we get through the 4-5 team. We already know it does not matter who wins out of 2 of the regions. Those 2 teams that win will end up being the 4-5 team that will play, while 1, 2, and 3 sit idle. All right, so let's shift gears and get out of the world of the verse of the WRL, and let's move on to the APFL. So the regular season is complete. We have the playoff picture for you. I'm going to pop it up for you right now. And I'm going to take some time to go over this. Might pop my face back up there a little bit and talk about it too. We had a lot of question marks about why this is the way that it is. We were questioned, rightfully so, by Cleveland general manager Eric Slacken. Thank you for calling us out on that as well, because there was you know what? That's not completely off topic. I mean, considering that I'm a Michigan fan as well, hail to the Victors, go Blue. So not completely off topic. I'm pretty sure that we're going to touch a few nerves of anybody who might be watching this now or later that are Ohio State fans. We got quite a few of them in the FSA. But yeah, hail to the Victors. So Eric called us out on the playoffs for the AFC side, and rightfully so. You know, it's always best to have a couple of different sets of eyes on this. Even though Toby and I look at it every single week and we compare notes, that doesn't mean that we can't miss some things as well. And we did on the AFC side. So we actually had a couple people that came out and wanted to hear this from us and have us talk them through why it is what it is. So I figured we would do the same thing for you all as well. So I am going to do my best to go through and tell you all this is why that it is why it is. Let me see if I can get this a little bit better. Oh, Gerard's back here in the background. Let me see if we can do this instead. Oh, he's still there in the background. You know what? You can just stay there, be pretty for a little bit. We'll bring you in by voice here in a few minutes. I don't think I can pull you out of here at this time anyways. You know what? Let's pull this back up because we're not blocking. these seedings that are here. So let's go through each one of the 7 spots. Let me see if I can pull up the actual standings. Switch over to that screen for just a second. Hi, Gerard. Take a drink. Let me see if I can pull that up and pull that screen up so we can all see the standings and I can go through it. Baby, I'm live. What's up? Do you want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah.
You do? Say hi to everybody. Hold on. Say hi.
Hi.
There you go. Gerard says hi. All right, go away. I love you. All right, so let's see if we can pull up the standings here and show you. God, this is going to be tough if I try to do that. You know what? Let me just see if I can pull this back up, and we'll see if we can just talk you all through it. I thought I had a plan for this, but I guess I don't. Let's pull this up. All right, so what ended up happening was Buffalo ended up being the #1 seed in the AFC because they had the best overall record in the AFC at 11-2. So when we end up going to the other divisional winners who end up getting seeds 2, 3, and 4, what we ended up having was a 3-way tie between the Cincinnati Cats, the Jacksonville Wildcats, and the Las Vegas Marauders. All 3 of those teams at 9-4. How do we break that tie? Well, we actually go to the NFL tiebreaker rules. Easiest way that I can tell you to look at this is the tiebreaker between these 3 teams ends up being conference record on the AFC side. Since the Las Vegas Marauders had the least winning percentage, the less winning percentage between these 3 teams at 6-3, they end up taking the #4 seed. So we have to figure out how to break the tie between the Jacksonville Wildcats, and the Cincinnati Cats. And as we go through the tiebreaker rules, what that ends up coming down to is strength of victory. What strength of victory is, what is the record of the opponents that you beat throughout the year? So in the case of Cincinnati and Jacksonville, they both ended up being 9-4. So of the 9 teams they beat, what was the combined record of those 9 teams that they beat? And Cincinnati ends up getting a nod, which puts them in the #2 seed over Jacksonville because their strength of victory record was 58-59, so 1 game under 500, while Jacksonville was 52-65. So it ends up being 13 games under 500. And I just saw Gerard make that face because he is actually the Jacksonville general manager as well. So the teams that he beat just didn't have a good combined record this year, but it still puts him in the 3rd spot winning the division. So now we've gone through 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what ends up happening after that? We have to settle the ties for the 5th, 6th, and 7th seed. So what we ended up having was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams that are all 7-6 that are vying for the 5, 6, and 7 position. The way that the NFL tiebreaker goes is that you must eliminate all but the top team in each one of the divisions before you can compare them against other teams in the other divisions, which means even though we had 7 teams that were 7-6, we had to narrow it down to 1 team per each division, meaning that we're going to have a maximum of 4 teams to compare against each other. So in the case of the NFC East, we had to figure out what the tiebreaker was going to be between Miami and New York first, so we can pull 1 team from that division, which ended up being the Miami Barracudas. We only have 1 team that is 7-6 in the AFC North, which ends up being the Pittsburgh Forge. We had a 3-way tie in the AFC South. Now, the tiebreaker there is going to be the overall head-to-head record between those 3 teams. And this is where the confusion came in between Toby and myself, and then Cleveland also asking the question about why Houston didn't get in as the #7 spot. And we'll talk about that one in just a second. And then Kansas City gets fit into that as well. They're only a 7-6 team. Kind of skipped over something. We do have a #5 seeded team that was easy to figure out. After we got the 11-2 at the #1 spot, and we figured out 2, 3, and 4 at the 9-4 spots. To get the #5 spot was based on record, and that was Denver out of the AFC West, of them having an 8-5 record. Then we had all 7 teams that needed to be figured out at the 7-6 level. So once we got it narrowed down to 1 team in each one of the divisions, which ends up being Miami at 7-6 because they have the tiebreaker over the New York Wings, the 7-6 team as the Pittsburgh Forge in the AFC North, the tiebreaker between Houston, Indianapolis, and Tennessee in the AFC South, which ends up being head-to-head record. And Houston ended up winning that with a 3-1 combined record versus Indianapolis's 2-2 record and Tennessee's 1-3 record. So we're considering Houston in this tie at 7-6, along with Kansas City, who is the next team up in the AFC West. If any of you are listening to this now and you have the ability to pull up the standings while I'm going through this, like maybe tomorrow, pull it up and it'll make a little bit more sense to you. So the next criteria for the tiebreaker when we look at those 4 teams across the conference ends up being conference record. Well, of all of those teams, Pittsburgh ends up having the better conference record at 6-3. So they end up getting the number 6 spot. Then when we move on to the next step, and we are now dealing with Miami still at 7-6 because they haven't been chosen yet. We're dealing with Houston at 7-6 because they have not been chosen yet. And we're choosing Kansas City because they have not been chosen yet. The tiebreaker between those 3 teams, Miami, Houston, and Kansas City, is first conference record. So Miami is eliminated because they only have a 4-5 conference record. However, Houston is at 5-4 and Kansas City is at 5-4. What it comes down to from there is strength of victory, just like it was whenever we were calculating the Cincinnati and Jacksonville for the number 2 and number 3 seed. So when we look at the Houston and Kansas City strength of victory, each one of those teams won 7 games this year. Houston's strength of victory ended up being 45-46, 1 game under 500. And then Kansas City ended up being 41-50. So in that, Houston ends up getting the number 7 spot. Hopefully through all of that, that made sense to you all. A little bit easier on the NFC side. Green Bay ends up being the number 1 overall pick with a record of 9-4. We have 2 teams that ended up being 8-5, and that ends up being Washington and San Francisco. Let me see. Washington, San Francisco end up being a conference record thing where San Francisco ends up being 7-2 and Washington ends up being 6-3. That puts San Francisco at the number 2 spot and Washington at the number 3 spot. That leaves the NFC South as the division that still needs to put a team in as a division winner. Tampa Bay and Atlanta were tied at 7-6. However, whenever we go look at the tiebreakers there, they were tied 1-1 during the regular season. So it comes down to a divisional tiebreaker. Tampa Bay was 5-1. Atlanta was 4-2. That gives Tampa Bay the nod there. So now we're dealing with the 5, 6, and 7 spots. So what we do is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are all 7-6. Once again, we have to narrow this down to 1 team per each one of the divisions. The only 2 teams that we have to worry about that is in the AFC North, and that is Detroit versus Chicago. That one ends up coming down to, if I remember right, common games. And in the common games, Chicago ends up getting that 5-5 over Detroit's 4-6. So Chicago is the next team up. When you can compare Chicago to Dallas and to Atlanta, oh God, I wish I should have broke this down and taken a little bit more notes. Trust me whenever I tell you that Chicago is the number 5, that Detroit is number 6, and Dallas is number 7. If you want to hit me offline and ask me a little bit more questions about it, I will. I promise you it's been doubled and triple checked. I wish I had done my notes a little bit better. Common games, Chicago over Detroit, ends up being between Dallas and Atlanta for the final spot. That ends up being, comes down to strength of victory, where Dallas ends up getting it 11 games under 500. However, it's still better than Atlanta's 35-56, putting Dallas in as the number 7 seed. I hope I didn't confuse anybody with all of that, but I'm sure I did. So I want to add one more thing into the APFL. We also have the first 9 draft picks on each conference. What that looks like, this is based on potential points with the lowest amount of potential points getting the number 1 pick, all the way up to the 9th lowest potential points getting that 9th pick. These are teams that have not made the playoffs. As the teams get eliminated this upcoming week in the quarterfinals of their conferences, they will filter into the 10, 11, and 12 spots. However, what you're also seeing there is you see quite a few on the AFC side of Denver, Cleveland, and Baltimore. That's because those picks that for the teams that held them, say like for a New England or New York, they traded those picks away during the season. And now Denver, Cleveland, and Baltimore hold some extra picks in the first round. NFC side a little bit simpler. However, Tampa Bay, San Francisco are still in the playoffs right now. And they have picks 1 and 6. It's because they had traded to get those picks earlier in the season. So I wanted to make sure everybody saw those as well. Let's talk about the APFL. The WRL All-Play tournament. So we had a couple of questions from a couple people on Discord over the last couple of days. Saying I thought I was out when I was eliminated. Not entirely true. So instead of doing a tournament like we're used to doing in years past, what we're doing is something called the All-Play tournament. What that is all of the teams that have been eliminated in the WRL, which there were 34 teams that ended up making the 500 and above WRL regional tournaments. 5 of them are going to move. Yeah, you just need a drink after that. Believe me, I promise you, Hanley, after trying to calculate it, and then we kind of having an arm wrestling match about it, and then having Eric come out and tell us, hey, what about this? And me looking back at my notes and looking at them twice to make sure that we were right, and then talking about it for a couple of hours, we finally got it right. We're discussing about ways, kind of taking a step back to the APFL. We're discussing ways to make it a little bit easier possibly next year. I'm sorry, not next year, 2026, because we have plans for 2025 already and finishing out something we had already started when we created the league in the first place. So let's go back to the WRL All-Play tournament. So for those that were above 500 that got knocked out along the way and are not part of the final 5 that are moving on to the World Championship, which I believe is 29 teams, we will have what's called an All-Play tournament. What that means is that we will still set our lineup for the next 3 weeks, in weeks 15, 16, and 17. Not the next 3. This upcoming week is week 14. But after this week, 15, 16, and 17. What it'll do is it will give you an all-play record as if you played all of the other 28 teams at the same time in that given week. So you will come away with a week with a record of either 28-0 all the way down to 0-28. And that will be cumulative over those 3 weeks. Whoever has the best record ends up winning the All-Play tournament. What do they get? They get the $60 buy-in back. So it was like they played for free this year. Now, if for some reason there is a tie at the top of the All-Play record, what we will end up doing is taking the 2 teams that end up having a tying record, and we will pretend like they played against each other all 3 of those weeks. And whoever has the 3-0 or 2-1 record at that time will end up breaking that tie. They will get the $60. Also, hopefully, Hanley, if you're still out there listening, that didn't confuse you at all. So that shall take care of the WRL All-Play tournament. I still want to do touch on our little bit of our NFL Week 14, since it will be the first round of the playoffs for the APFL. It is the finals in the WRL. What does it look like for teams in prime time and bye weeks this week? So we got Green Bay at Detroit. Man, I sure did forget to grab my hat, and I'm not going to pull away from the screen right now to go do it. Well, we have Green Bay at Detroit. Detroit favored by 3. I'm picking Detroit. Throw the hat on. Should be a great game, though. I'm really looking forward to the tomorrow night's game. Sunday Night Football, we got the LA Chargers at Kansas City. I would love to say that the LA Chargers are going to win that. Realistically, they're at home at Kansas City that got the refs on their side. Kansas City's going to get that one. And then we have Cincinnati at Dallas, which I think normally probably would have been a great game minus all of the injuries on Dallas' side of the board. Cincinnati's favored by 5 in that one, and I'm going to take Cincinnati for Monday Night Football on that. We do have a large amount of teams off in Week 14, though. This is our last week of buys in the NFL. 6 teams off. We've got Washington, New England, Indianapolis, Houston, Denver, and Baltimore off this week. So a large amount of teams off this week. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to bring in Gerard Petrino, who is the general manager of the New York Jackets, who are in the regional finals in the Banshees region. He is also going to play in the first round of the APFL playoffs as the number 3 seed with the Jacksonville Wildcats this week. He got to experience something pretty cool today, and I'm going to let him explain it to you. Let me pull you in and make sure I unmute you as well, so that way we can hear you this time. And hey, man, how are you? How was practice tonight?
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. If I can hear you, that's all that's important.
Hey, look, I just want to do a quick mic check. But practice was good. Appreciate you bringing me in. But no, you can see I have my Georgia hat on. All right. So
yeah,
no,
why is that? Why do you have Georgia stuff on tonight?
So I have my Georgia hat on today because today is National Signing Day, right? And I got to experience something at 40 years old that I've never experienced before. I got to actually see a top 10 SEC or big powerhouse school. Got to see an athlete sign a full ride to their program, which is someone that I personally know. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because there's got to be some Georgia fans out there that are part of APFL, WRL.
Yep.
It's got to be.
There are.
And if there aren't, then guess what? You know, some of y'all are missing out. But either way, for us APFL people, I can tell you about a kid that will be a true asset in 2029, 4 years from now when he graduates Georgia and he makes it to the NFL, because I know he's going to make it. Someone that I'm going to be looking out, saving my first round draft pick that year, because so far since I've been in APFL, the last 2 years I've traded my number 1 draft pick away, which is a fact. So I'm gonna make sure that year I hold on to it. But just wanted to explain the experience. It's definitely once in a lifetime. Totally awesome experience. Between the press conference, between the coaches interview, between the players interview, between the physical signing, the pen that you're signing with, which is a specific pen that is engraved, and it's something that a normal person would never think of, right? And what it takes to put this stuff together.
No.
So just wanted to share that real quick. I got to meet some media people today that are actually on the sidelines with Georgia. All right. And in case you didn't know out there, if you look at the stats, Georgia had the top draft class of 2025, top recruiting class 2025, with one local to where me and you live in Evans, Georgia.
Yep.
10 minutes
the
down.
Offensive lineman out of Evans, yeah.
Absolutely. But the kid that I'm talking about, that I've known pretty much his entire life, is a wide receiver.
You've known the kid since he was in diapers.
I've known the kid since he was in diapers. I remember going outside. Hey, Uncle P, can you come play baseball with me in the backyard? Can you come play catch with me in the backyard? Yes, I remember it. So today was a little special. So definitely a kid to look out for. 6'1", 185 pounds, runs a 4.3 40. Met his wide receiver coach that he's going to have at UGA, which was also a humbling experience. Definitely someone to look out for. Academically intelligent.
The whole time you're saying somebody to look out for, I feel like you're still trying to hold a little something in your pocket because you don't want to give it away in 2029 when you get a chance to pick him. What's this kid's name? What's this kid's name?
I definitely am. I'm trying to hold back for as long as possible. But his name is Landon Roldan.
Okay.
He's out of Bogart, Georgia. He plays for North Oconee High School, which is still in the semifinals. They're playing Blessed Trinity this week, Friday, 7:30, underneath the lights in North Oconee. I'll be at the game on the sidelines, rooting for them. If they win this week, they'll be headed down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the final. They knocked off Cartersville last week. 28-26. Great game. It'll be 29 degrees at kickoff, so I'll be nice and cold with 17 layers on the sideline. But yeah, definitely wanted to share that. If y'all out there following college sports, look out for this kid. He is gonna be something special. He's gonna bring something to Georgia that they haven't had in a long time. One of the main players out there that he's been compared to is Ladd McConkey. So
yeah, he's having a pretty good year his first year.
A little bit taller than McConkey and definitely faster than McConkey. So yeah. a lot of people that follow college sports are looking out for this kid, saying he's a dark horse, and not to sleep on him. So definitely looking forward to it. I want everybody that's watching it, look out for him, because I'll be right there. They got 6 new Georgia fans this last year, as you can see.
Yeah, you and the whole family got it. I know. All right, well, let me wrap up this broadcast. You stay back here in the background. I'm going to pull myself back up, finish this up, and then you and I can talk after this, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing the experience.
All right, brother. I appreciate you having me.
Yep. All right, so the next broadcast is going to be next Wednesday. We're deep into these playoffs now, both on the APFL side and the WRL side. I got to mute you. I didn't realize you would still be back here in the background. Riley's getting all the love right now, and everybody heard it. Yeah, it really was for him. I swear Gerard and I can't have a conversation anymore on the phone without him bringing this up. So he's super excited about it. I'm excited for him. You know, I'm still going to be bleeding blue and maize, but I will definitely have Gerard over at the house a couple times next year to watch some Georgia games. I'm sure we'll be rooting this kid on. Something else I wanted to touch on, and I'm surprised Sean's not here. He must be super busy right now. I've got some Naughty Dogs gear on right now. I got his hat that I bought a couple years ago from the Squad Locker. And what you're seeing is the 2023 Grey Cup Champs shirt that we had created for the Naughty Dogs, graphic done by Eric Poole. I'm going to have to share this with Eric later. I'm not wearing Sean's shirt. Sean asked for a medium. There's no way my fat butt is going to fit in a medium anymore. But what ended up happening was the local T-shirt lady that we had do this for us, Katie, who was also the same person that does all of our jerseys for us for the 8U baseball team that Gerard and I coach. She ended up getting this print done, created by somebody else after the art was given to us by Eric. We gave it to Katie, and she had to have the physical print done by somebody else before she could put it on the T-shirt. Well, what she always does is she always gets 2 of these made in case she messes up one of them. So after she got done putting Sean's together, which is on a medium shirt, by the way, she told me as she was giving me the shirt, hey, I have this extra, basically decal, if you want to call it that, overlay print. What do you want to do with it? And I was like, well, can I have it? She's like, yeah, sure, you can have it. I was like, well, wait a minute. Do you have an extra large shirt that you could put it on? She goes, I do. And the machine's already warmed up. You want me to put it on there now? And I said, heck yeah, because this will be a piece of memorabilia that I can either wear or fold up nice and put on a T-shirt cardboard thing and hang here in the man cave to commemorate the year that this happened for Sean. Now, Sean's shirt is still very much sitting over in the box. I'm going to find time to go out and visit him in Atlanta. We can do the high five and I can give him his shirt. But I was kind of hoping he would be on tonight. That way he could see that I was wearing his gear. Not his exact shirt. I don't want him to think that I'm wearing him stuff and I'm getting him like hand-me-downs, something like that. So we will be back next week. We're deep into the playoffs as we're starting the first round of the APFL and we're finishing up the regional finals in the WRL. So we will be back next week, which is the 11th of December. Time to still be determined. I don't know if we will go back to our normal 8:30 regularly scheduled time, or we'll stick with 9 o'clock like we've done over the last couple of weeks. That will be based on baseball practice, and we'll let you know sooner than later on that. Thank you for sticking around with us. I know I rambled through the APFL playoff seedings. If you want to know more, hit us up on Discord. If you need any clarification on anything with the WRL playoffs, hit us up on Discord. And if you want to know what's going on with the All-Play tournament for the WRL, because you still got question marks about it, hit us up on Discord. We will see you all next week. Thank you for those that showed up tonight. Gerard, thank you for being in the background. I'm going to end the stream tonight, and then I'm going to have a talk with G in the background. You have a great rest of your Wednesday night. Looking forward to Thursday night football. Maybe we'll have a happy hour tomorrow night. Talk to you all soon.